They are so mean to her. Bro, this shit is so devastating. Things truly just get worse. Okay, perfect. I can't believe the horrors of this book. Hi you guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily. Today we are going to be starting a reading vlog, and not just any reading vlog, but a rereading vlog, because I am going to be rereading one of my favorite books, which was not my plan at all until yesterday morning when I couldn't get it out of my head. Quite frankly, I was just really having a hard time getting through my current reads. I just couldn't stop thinking about Alchemised since I talked about it the other day. And so I kind of opened it up originally thinking I was just going to like read through some of my favorite parts, and that just wasn't satiating enough. Like I was like, I need to start it over, unfortunately. The book is over 1,000 pages, and I read it the first time in, I think, 2 days because it is so consuming. And I don't anticipate on reading it that fast. I started this yesterday morning and I'm only 100 pages in. However, I am looking forward to being whisked away mentally. And without further ado, we're just going to get into it. I'll give a disclaimer now. This is going to be a spoiler reading vlog. I have thought a lot about it, and the reality is I just don't know how to do this without spoiling parts of it. This book is just so good. I want to be able to kind of gab about it. Probably just check back in with you guys later tonight. Okay. Hi guys. It is currently 11:30. As a 9 to 5 girly is just so incredibly late. I have to read before bed. I feel like it is so imperative to me getting good sleep. So I'm going to read a little bit. I don't intend to get very far. I have a very light day tomorrow at work, so I actually will probably be able to read a good bit tomorrow as well. So let's do that. Farron's lips remained pressed against Aurelia's, but as he kissed her, he raised his eyes and his gaze locked onto Helena's face. If anyone had been around when I first read that sentence, I would have been locked up. Okay, I realize I have not really explained what this book is about, so I'm gonna read the back to you, and then I'll kind of fill in as well where we're at, what's kind of going on. Once a promising alchemist, Helena Marino is now a prisoner of war and of her own mind. Her resistance friends and allies have been brutally murdered, her abilities suppressed, and the world she knew destroyed. In the aftermath of a long war, Palladia's new ruling class of corrupt guild families and depraved necromancers, whose vile undead creatures help bring about their victory, holds Helena captive. According to Resistance records, she was a healer of little importance within their ranks, but Helena has inexplicable memory loss of the months leading up to her capture, making her enemies wonder, is she truly as insignificant as she appears, or are her lost memories hiding some vital piece of Resistance' final gambit? To uncover the memories buried deep within her mind, Helena is sent to the High Reeves, one of the most powerful and ruthless necromancers in this new world. Trapped in his crumbling estate, Helena's fight to protect her lost history and to preserve the last remaining shreds of her former self is just beginning. For her prison and captor have secrets of their own, secrets Helena must unearth, whatever the cost. That's a great explanation. So Helena wakes up and she's in a stasis tank and has been essentially kept alive for the last 14 months, fully conscious and trapped in her own body with no memory of how she got there. And a huge chunk of the war is just like missing from her mind. It kind of states this here, but like the war is over and the Resistance has lost, and necromancy is kind of the big evil here. It's bringing people back from the dead. It's controlling their bodies. It's, all of these things. And the other side of the same coin with necromancy is vivimancy, which is controlling an alive person or healing an alive person. In the case of Helena, she has this gift of vivimancy that she uses for good. Although most of the Resistance is very against her using it, they recognize that they need her in the war. And so she's the healer, but she can't remember a huge part of the war. So she's currently with the High Reeves, who is Kane Farron, and he's trying to basically hack into her brain and find out what's going on. So already in our story, she's unearthing kind of memories. She's having these dreams, but every time Kane goes into her mind using his own resonance, which is kind of their magic system / science. It's a magic and a science in this book. Every time he goes into her memories, she's having seizures and is kind of unable to, basically the pathways of her brain are unable to divert in order for her to remember what she's missing. And so he's trying to find out what that is. Our high necromancer, which is like big head honcho evil guy, is Moreau. And he wants to know her memories so that he can find out if there's anyone left in the Resistance, basically for him to kill. That's kind of a good catch up of the book, kind of the premise of what's happening. This is the point in the book where I'm at. You're seeing not a development of, not a kindling of anything between Kane and Helena, but certainly an interest, an intrigue in someone who she's just, I think, realizing is a little more complex than just like purely evil. So there's been a few parts that I've highlighted that you guys have seen that are interesting. So many good parts that are so fun and such good pokes at what's to come. This book layers itself so nicely. I'm just going to keep reading. I'm enjoying a slow day. It's rainy out right now, which is so nice. I think I'm going to make myself some tea and get back to it. I've heard a few times this story compared to The Handmaid's Tale, and there's a huge portion of the story that has nothing to do with that. There is a section in this book that is similar. There's a repopulation program going on, and if you know anything about The Handmaid's Tale, I think that you'll kind of get what I'm saying. I actually haven't read that book or seen the show, but I kind of know the gist of it. And that's the part where I'm at. So I'm taking a little break. It's a bit heavy. it's definitely a big reason why I think people don't often want to say that this is a romance book. They don't want to talk about that part. There's an obvious through line of a love story in this book, but it's a tough read. It's probably, in my opinion, the biggest trigger warning that I would watch out for if you're considering reading this book. But yeah, I'm making myself lunch and the sun has come out, which is nice, I guess. I feel like on a day where I know I'm gonna sit and read, I don't need the sun. I don't mind a rainy reading day. Okay, so you might have seen that I am officially at part 2. And if you know anything about the structure of this book, going into it blind is quite odd, I will admit. Like, when I first got to part 2, I was constantly waiting to go back. And you don't. For a very long time. The majority of the book takes place in the lost memories, but you spend almost 300 pages in the future. So it's a very odd thing to go back, but it's also cool because now you're understanding a lot more. You're learning, you're building up to why she lost all her memories. So that's where we're at right now. Basically what has been going on, I last filled you guys in talking about the repopulation program. Helena is pregnant and hysterical. The last few chapters have really just been her finding out she's pregnant, having a little more development with her character between her and Cain, not positively, to be honest. And then from there, she basically becomes bedridden because of her mental state. She goes and has to see the High Necromancer at some point, and he determines that the reason why her memories are lost are not because the Resistance has this Animancer that they are working with or previously worked with that helped erase her memories, but it's actually because she is the Animancer. So this whole time, while she's been trying to get her memories back, her brain has been subconsciously fighting against it. Like, it's continually pushing these memories away. And she's not even aware of it. But what happens when she gets pregnant is her body can't keep maintaining that. She's completely bedridden because she's so weak. She's got like constant headaches, yada yada. Her body's breaking down. Until one day she wakes up and she's getting a flood of memories, and now we're in part 2 where we are going back 4 years prior. This is the good part. I loved the first part of this book, but this is the part that's like, just get to learn so much about Helena, and this is really the meat of the book. So without further ado, let's get into it. Also, I feel like I have people ask me in my real life how I read so much, and the truth is I am neglecting a lot of other stuff. Like, I do need to go to the grocery store, and I should go to the gym today, and I don't know what I'm gonna do either, but I do know I'm gonna keep reading. I will check back in with you guys, still kind of figuring out how often to check back in, still figuring out what to say, what not to say. I'm trying to keep it kind of late so that if you haven't read this book, you don't feel like you definitely don't need to now. You definitely should. Okay, I'll check back in with you guys later. At this point in the book, we're really starting to see Helena and Cain. Varen comes to the Resistance and tells them he's willing to spy for them, but he wants Helena. Essentially, he wants her. period, which is kind of confusing, but they basically use this as she's kind of the carrier pigeon back and forth between Cain and the Resistance. And for several chapters, like, it's a very tenuous relationship. She's pretty much convinced that he's evil and is just using this as an opportunity to advance his own position in the war. And that's kind of what she's been told by the Resistance. We're starting to see some of the negative sides of the Resistance. Essentially, this book is going to really make you hate the good guys. They work Helena literally to the bone. She's a healer and they are constantly demanding more and more of her. She's the only healer at this point in the Resistance because she has the gift of vivimancy, which is a huge part of why she's such a successful healer. And instead of treating her like a valued member of the Resistance, they basically treat her as if she's paying penance for existing. And that's kind of how she lives. So meeting with Cain is part of that. They expect her to do whatever he wants, not knowing what that is, but literally whatever he wants, she's supposed to do it. So she agrees to it because she's willing to do whatever it takes to win this war. And she's coming to find out that he has perhaps no interest in her bodily, but he has a lot of interest in kind of just psychologically torturing her. He's incredibly irate every time they meet. He's very mean. He's just not a great person, but he's kind of convinced that her role in this is to make him compliant with the Resistance. So she's trying to help him, whatever. He gives a piece of information to the Resistance at a certain point that wins them a huge battle, and it costs him almost his life. So the next time they meet, while there's this huge win for the Resistance, he is tore up and basically told by the Undying that if he survives, he'll be forgiven because he was in charge of this post that they took back, that he gave up the information for the Resistance. But if he dies, then he dies. So the way that the Undying tortured him was by carving an alchemy array on his back, which I honestly can't really fully explain because it is a hard concept to understand. I'll put in some artwork so you can understand kind of visually what's going on. But an array in this case is going to be basically an alchemic process written out, but it's never meant to be on a person. It's kind of like showing your work for the magic that happens. And so to do it on a person is to inflict them with this process into their person. And so his is, let's see if I can find it. The ray that is carved into his back is calculating, cunning, devoted, determined, ruthless, unfailing, unhesitating, and unyielding. And these are important traits to keep in mind for Cain. Basically, his humanity is being whittled down to these traits, but it's also like never been done to a person. It was a form of torture, and he's not really expected to survive. But Helena finds him and kind of realizes what he gave up for the Resistance and what it cost him, and she starts seeing him a little more human. He's still horrible. He's still not nice at all, but he kind of as a last ditch lets her try to heal him. And she's not super successful. She finds that an heirloom that was given to her essentially has it. This is one of the parts in the book that I will admit is poorly explored. It really doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense the first time, and I reread it this time, and it doesn't make sense how she comes to this conclusion, but essentially she has an heirloom amulet that she just has a feeling would help. And so while he's unconscious, she breaks open the amulet and there is a silver white stone inside that she pushes into his chest. Like, I don't know. And she's like, it didn't really do anything. It didn't really help. But low-key, it kind of did, I guess. Like, it didn't do much in the moment. But she keeps seeing him every single night for like a week or two, trying to heal him little by little. And she starts noticing that his eyes are turning silver and he's got some hair in the front because he has dark hair that is starting to turn silver, which she finds interesting but doesn't really have a connection to. So that's kind of where we're at. We are seeing more and more of the poor treatment of the resistance. They are so mean to her. It's the crux of the book. It's the theme of the book is really like how underappreciated, how under cared for that Helena is throughout this whole process. As a healer, she's not able to fight, and so people really use that against her. But in reality, she is the biggest reason that the resistance is able to maintain their numbers, because she's the only healer. She's the only one healing thousands and thousands of people, whereas everyone else maybe is a medic. She's going around and physically healing people. Says, are you doing anything that would make interfering worth the effort? Insofar as I'm aware, the only thing you've done for the last several weeks is waste our limited opium supplies on Farron. If you've read this book, you know that it just gets worse. That is one of the things about this book that is so devastating. Is like things truly just get worse. And so to know that I'm at about 45% and like the things that they say to her are truly so insane. They really hate women. There's so much religious oppression. I've been reading a lot off camera just because this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the book, where there's just a lot of development, but not necessarily a lot to talk about yet. So that was kind of my overview of what's going on, and I'll check back in with you guys probably when I'm feeling a little more, well, hysterical about what's going on in this book. Okay, we are seeing a huge shift now. Moving forward, Helena has become completely disillusioned to the resistance and their commitment to their faith. She was considered a foreigner. She just didn't grow up with this inert faith the way the rest has, and throughout the book, there's been so much prejudice against her for not having this strong faith that the rest of the resistance has. So despite all that she has done for the resistance, they hold her to be in a limbo and constant penance for the gifts that she has. She's feeling incredibly lonely, and throughout this process of healing Cain, and he then demands training her in combat so that she can keep herself safe and ultimately keep him safe. She is finding, I think, a friend in him. She's finding company. She's finding someone who also has no faith. He doesn't even believe that the good guys are going to win. He fully thinks that the undying are going to win, and he's not willing to lie to her. But he does have this way of constantly pushing her away. Any time that they are building this ground to stand on with one another, it kind of ripples each time they get close to something real, because there's so much between them. They both know that they have so much to lose and so much to gain from one another. And it's a constant question of, are you using me? And we're seeing in Helena a big flip with her of knowing that she was supposed to be used, knowing that she's supposed to be using him, and knowing that she doesn't think she's being used by him and she doesn't want to use him anymore. But the resistance is so adamant on her trying to basically not view Cain as anything but an asset. There's so many lines in here where they're like, he's an animal, he's a monster, blah, blah, blah. And she's having such a hard time thinking of him that way because she knows him and she's watched him, what he's given up for the resistance and what that's done to himself, putting himself in such harm's way. I just read their first intimacy, spoiler, intimacy scene, and it's so heartbreaking. Even the second time, it's like so sad. Resistance essentially gives Helena a month. They tell her that they want him dead. They're no longer valuing his contributions to the resistance. They want him dead, and she's begging, basically, like, don't kill him. She sees a lot of value in him. She views him now as more than just a tool. And they essentially tell her that she has a month to make him entirely vulnerable to her. They use the phrase that he needs to be crawling on his knees for her, and not in a cute way, not in a romantic way. They want to further manipulate him, and so she is torn between actually caring about him now and knowing that if she does not further manipulate him, that they're going to kill him. Yeah, we're at this tough part. She's also entirely lonely, and so each step of manipulating him and building their relationship, she's finding such solace in him, and he's so skeptical. He's so skeptical of her, but she's winning him over little by little by little, knowing and feeling horrible the whole time, knowing that she's also manipulating him, but also knowing that she's saving him. And that's what I'm stressing about. Trying so hard not to read passages of what is tearing me apart, but I'm definitely a little bit past the halfway mark. I hate when paperbacks start to do that, so I gotta get a little further. I wasn't going to betray the resistance, he finally said. I never was going to. You were already losing when I made the offer, and you're probably still going to lose now, but I never cared. I just wanted to avenge my mother. Bro. Unfortunately, by the time I had an opportunity to offer my services, she'd be dead too long, and there was the coroner's report saying she died of natural causes. What could I possibly have to avenge? I knew Crowther well enough to know he'd only consider me as valuable as the strings he could pull. I tried to think, what could I possibly want from the eternal flame? A pardon, because it was ridiculous, as it was obvious. But the resistance was losing. Everyone knew you were losing. I knew I needed a contact. I thought demanding someone specific would play into what they expected of me. But the eternal flame's noble families are too precious. I had to want someone they considered disposable, and Crowther was standing there waiting for an answer. I had to come up with something. I remembered your name on the exam list. Bro. When I said Helena Marino, Crowther got this look in his eye, and I knew he'd taken the bit. I knew they'd send you with instructions to play up the obsession I was supposed to have, to ensure I wouldn't get bored or change my mind, but I wasn't worried. You were no one, just an awkward shadow behind Holdfast, following him like a dog. He looked away from her then, his face twisting. But you, he shook his head. Doesn't really matter. You outmaneuvered me, or maybe I'm just too tired and grieving to keep pushing you away. You won. Well done. Bro, this shit is so devastating. No! I forgot this is where it gets bad. Oh my god. This shit is so sickening. She slipped through his walls and peeled away the defensive layers of malice and cruelty and found that there he carried a broken heart. She could use that. I feel sick. I actually feel sick. It's like I actually expect it to be different this time. Say that. Okay, y'all. We've reached the point of no return. unfortunately, things are getting bad again. I won't bother recapping everything that's happened. She's kind of laying out her cards now, explaining, she had a month and that time is quickly coming to an end. And Cain is pretty much resigned to dying. He knows that the resistance is going to turn on him and they're basically going to give him up to the High Necromancer. He's just kind of accepted it. Then he says, "So what happens to you now?" "Me? Yes. What happens to you?" "She's gonna kill herself." No plans. She's completely spent. This war has truly taken so much from both of them. And then he says, "What do they want?" Oh. Is it actual crawling? Or is there something more constructive Ilva had in mind? He's gonna crawl for her. I just want to be clear, if you've not read this book and you think I'm being silly about the whole crawling thing, this is not sexual. Resistance wants him basically as their dog. They want him fully controllable. And he asks, knowing that when he dies, she's basically planning, she's done. She's given too much. She can't do anymore. So he says, "Is it actual crawling?" "Find out, I'll do it." Bro, no. No. I can't believe the horrors of this book. Holy shit. It's worse than I remember. Helena looked between them and then turned reluctantly and went out on the landing. She only heard Crowther utter one word before the door sealed shut. "Beg." Bro, this is a huge turning point in the book too, where you really see how obsessive Cain gets. Begging to help the resistance, mind you. He's begging to help the resistance. He's begging not because he cares if he lives, but because he just knows that it would hurt her if he died. Okay. Hi guys, I thought I'd check in real quick and just let you guys know our enemies have become lovers and things are about to get worse. Yeah, I read this scene yesterday where they kind of it just becomes cemented that they actually really care for one another. They're not just lonely, they're both lonely, but they also they care for each other. And I had to put it down, and I've avoided picking it up all day just because it just gets so sad from here. It's a good sad, you could say. It's sad because right now we're gonna hit a spot of some really tender moments in between war. And I think that I'm just not ready to relive that. There are moments that I think about often, and I'm I don't know if I can reread those. I'm gonna keep reading. It's Sunday night. I'm not finishing this book tonight. I know that, but I'm just gonna read for a while and then probably watch The Pit tonight. If you're not watching that, you should. Okay, bye. Sorry, this book is just sickening. Oh my god. Oh good. Don't worry, I'm always gonna come back to you. Oh good. Shut the up. Good morning. It's kind of early for me. I tried to read a chapter last night before bed, and actually had to put it down because I realized what chapter it was, and it was kind of, well, it was not putting me to sleep. It was kind of working me up. I'm going to take care of you. I swear, Helena, I'm going to take care of you. She heard him muttering the words against her skin or into her hair in such a low voice she could barely make them out. Some days the compulsion seemed worse than others. She heard him repeating it over and over one night. He usually stopped after a while, but this time he didn't. Kane, I'm all right. Nothing's going to happen to me. Well, guys, it's over. I finished Alchemised for the second time. I'm not sure if I feel like it was more or less heartbreaking this time, but I will say the ending is a lot more peaceful when you know what's gonna happen. I think last time I was so unwilling to relax, and the ending to this I think is very well deserved. I think it's a little bit different than what you might anticipate the ending being, and the epilogue is great as well. And of course, the last line of the book. I obviously recommend this. Like dark fantasy, this is a go-to. I've recommended it to a few people, but it is definitely a check your trigger warnings kind of book. But that is all from me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.